When Kathy Payne and Greg Bright moved to Rocky Lago Vista from Houston, they could still grow some of their favorite plants. The rules had changed, though, while Kathy's design vision simply adapted.
To me, a garden is a work of art in cooperation with nature. So when we lived in Houston, I enjoyed doing that very much. But Houston's a different kind of environment. It's moist and the soil is soft.
There's basically no soil here. It's caliche.
When we moved here, it took me 2 hours to dig a hole this big to plant my first plant.
You have to bring in the soil, bags of it, and supplement. And then the deer and the drought were issues.
Until 2015, the lakefront home was their part-time getaway. When they settled in full-time, they updated the house with Texas contemporary style.
And then we took what was in the front yard, not very much, a hill basically, in a circular drive, and we just excavated that and decided to build that retaining wall and put levels in it so that we could really enjoy the garden. But I had no hope of building such an intricate thing without the talent of Greg. He's the one who really knows how to build things.
We had pretty much given up before we finally discovered what worked, and the rock garden was all part of that. But I wasn't my first rodeo either. I used to own some garden centers. We had two Ace Hardware stores in Houston that I grew up with in my family, and we had horticulturists that worked there. We had professional landscapers that worked there. So growing up, I got to learn a thing or two, observing these guys, and then going on to manage the family stores with my dad.
Greg's limestone tiers block runoff from the street. After filling in with soil, Kathy layered plants of various heights and forms. Textural foliage companions with pollinator perennials, including salvias and alliums. Succulents, culinary herbs, and other fragrant ground covers resist browsing deer.
Anytime I'm looking at a space, even if it's a very small space, I back away from it and I think of what, if we were painting a painting, what would we do with this space? You would look for a balance of color. If you have a little spot of red here, you might look for a couple of other spots of red there. Look for a balance in the textures. And it's the same thing with leaves to me, or even with flowers. You're looking for a nice variety of something that has very large leaves next to something that has very small leaves. It's Austin, so water is very expensive and scarce, so you're going to really try to pick more of a xeriscape landscape, something that will maintain and withstand a drought and the heat.
To embellish the front porch with the essence of water, Kathy presented Greg her latest drawing.
I was trying to draw something that I thought would look interesting as a piece of art on the ground, that would withstand the elements and the deer, but also keep a low profile. We wanted to create something that looked a little bit like a river. We wanted to use the nice cool color of gray like you see in the Mexican river stone. If it were a river, then it would have beaches, wouldn't it? So you'll notice we've got some a lighter tone, smaller rock, smaller pebble, which looks like sand. So that comes on the either side of the swirling river rock. And you have to have a pop of color. If I can't do it with a flower of some kind, then that's how the idea of having the red glass came in.
They turned a chunk of backyard limestone into a disappearing fountain. A 15-gallon basin recirculates the gently flowing water to attract birds, pollinators, and lizards.
She's out there with one of those rock breakers, those long bars, and she's out there. I've got a picture of her digging that hole.
I can't weld, but I can dig a hole. It's about 18 inches round and 18 inches deep. And the only good thing about caliche is when you dig a hole, basically the sides stay.
It was a nice hole.
We had to run electricity too to run the pump, right? So he figured out the electricity.
Greg analyzed the size of hole to drill into the limestone for a gently cascading plume of water.
And did I make the hole the right diameter? Because the smaller diameter of the hole, the more it's just going to squirt up straight, right? So I kind of guessed on the size, and it was about a 1-inch diameter vinyl tubing.
He also calculated drip irrigation flow and pump size to regulate the waterfall's output. His biggest installation challenge was the borders to corral Kathy's rock swirls.
We thought about that standard 4-inch tall metal border you can get anywhere, landscape border. And then I realized, well, you can't really form that. You can't really bend, you can bend it, but you can't bend it easily. And we really needed the slow arcs that curved into infinity, really. And so we decided on 2-inch, 1/8 inch thick metal banding, 2 inches tall, and I could actually use a metal bender to form that, if you will, and then weld it together.
Kathy's stacking technique also prevents shifting.
So the way you stack them, you want them to be stacked kind of a long way like this, so it looks like a current. If you stack them like this, it doesn't look the same. Now that they're packed in there, literally you can walk across it. They're so tightly packed. You might upset a stone here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty stable.
They pretty much stay in place.
To keep the basin's water clear, Greg drops in a barley straw bale.
The water has stayed clear for a year. I'm blown away.
Then Kathy added accents and plants.
There's several different varieties of thyme. They're just so beautiful. We have some elfin thyme out there, which just hugs, looks like little
That's
mountains.
my favorite.
That's my favorite too. I like that too. And the thyme flowers, beautiful little purple flowers in the springtime, lovely. And oregano. So those seem to be the most natural ground cover. And I just love succulents. And that was a little bit of a leap of faith. We weren't sure whether that would weather the winter, whether it would be able to withstand some direct sunlight right around noontime, really. It gets direct sunlight, and so we weren't sure about that. We were actually gone after we built this garden. We left in July and August. It doesn't get any hotter than that. We were gone for the entire 2 months.
That was a real test.
Big test. And we came back and it still looked great.
They sold the house to move closer to family in Tennessee, but are coaching the new owners through their first seasons. Greg's producing videos and how-to tips on his website Fix It Wise and YouTube, including their Rocky River fun couple adventure.
We're such a great couple when it comes to projects like that. We have very complementary skills. It's really fun to work together. Greg is so good at the technical. He can make art out of a hunk of wood or a piece of metal or some concrete. He can work with any medium, and I like to design through plants and shapes and things like this. So together, that was a very fun, probably our perfect project together, just because it used something I enjoy doing and something he enjoys doing. What do you think?
Well, that was something your mom said that I picked up on. She said this project was the perfect combination of both of your skills.